She hadn't planned to stop. Didn't need flour. Didn't need rope. Didn't need anything. Really, not anymore. But something about the way the wind cut across the plains made her pull the reins toward the dusty town square. That's when she saw them. 3 boys, burlap sacks tied over their heads, hands bound behind their backs, standing beside a crude sign that read, Chinese boys, $3 apiece. No English, no names, just labor. Clara Vance swung down from her horse, boots striking the dirt like a challenge. No one noticed at first. No one ever did. The town had long since stopped caring where the reclusive rancher went or why. She did her supply runs twice a month, always in worn denim, always silent, never lingering for gossip. But now she walked straight into the small crowd that had formed, and every head turned. Not because she looked strange, but because her eyes did. The auctioneer, a pot-bellied man with sweat-stained suspenders, cleared his throat. You here for one?" She didn't answer. One of the boys swayed, the tallest. He was older, maybe 11, maybe 12. His knees buckled, but he caught himself. The other 2 didn't move. $3 each, the man said again, a greedy glint in his eye. Brought them in from the railroad camps. Strong backs. Clara stepped closer. Still didn't speak. The auctioneer looked nervous now. "You understand, hm? These boys ain't like ours. Don't talk much. Don't cry either. Haven't eaten today. Been like that since sunrise. Orders from the cellar. Don't untie the sacks. You don't know what you're buying is all I'm saying." Clara reached into her coat, pulled out a worn leather pouch. Inside were 9 silver dollars. She pressed the coins into the man's palm. "All 3, she said. He blinked. "Pardon?" "Untie them." Now the crowd watched with breath held. The man hesitated, then muttered something under his breath and stepped forward, knife in hand. One by one, he cut the ropes binding each sack. The fabric fell away. The oldest boy had sharp, intelligent eyes that were too old for his thin face. His jaw was clenched, but he didn't flinch. The middle one had a fresh bruise blooming under one eye. His gaze darted between faces, trusting none of them. The smallest, no more than 6, stared straight at Clara. He didn't speak, didn't whisper, just held her gaze. As she turned to lead them to her horse, the smallest boy took a hesitant step, then another, until his small hand reached out and grabbed the edge of her coat. He looked up at her, his voice a tiny, fragile thing. "Please," he whispered in broken English. "Stay." The crowd rustled. Someone coughed. Clara didn't answer them. She placed a hand on the boy's shoulder, then the middle one, then the eldest. "Come with me." The auctioneer called after her, "You don't even know their names." But she didn't stop. She didn't need their names. She just needed them to live. They rode back in silence. The boys sat in the back of her buckboard, clutching their knees, eyes on the road. She didn't ask them questions, didn't hand them bread or water. Not yet. Clara knew better than to offer comfort too quickly. It scared the ones who'd been hurt the worst. Her ranch sat on the edge of the foothills where the pines grew tall and the creek ran fast. The fields were well tended. The barn stood straight, and the windows of the small house were clean, but it was a place of solitude. It was hers. The boys didn't move when she stopped. "Inside," she said. The eldest was the first to jump down. He helped the others without a word. They followed her into the house like shadows, steps quiet, breath tight. Inside, the stove still held warmth. She set a kettle on, opened a cupboard, and pulled down a jar of dried beans and a sack of flour. "Sit," she said. They did. She stirred batter with one hand, watching them with the other. "What's your name?" she asked the smallest. He hesitated. "Wei," he whispered. She nodded. "Yours?" The middle one looked down. Jin, the oldest, looked at her a long time before he spoke. Bo. She set the pan on the stove and began spooning batter into it. I'm Clara. You asked to stay, Way. Why? He shrugged, looking at his bare feet. Just stay. The batter sizzled. Bo stiffened. Jin glanced at the floor. Clara didn't move. Then Bo stood. I don't care why you brought us here, he said, his English surprisingly clear. But if you're going to hurt us, do it quick. Don't drag it out. Clara turned, brow furrowing. I won't hurt you. They all say that. Well, she said, flipping the pancakes. I won't say it again. She fed them. They ate like wolves. No conversation, just the scrape of forks and the clink of mugs. When the plates were empty, she brought out blankets, laid them near the hearth. You sleep here tonight. Clean clothes are in the chest. If you run, I won't come after you, but I'll leave the lantern on until morning. She turned, stepped toward her room. Then she stopped. Tomorrow, she said softly, we'll talk about what happens next. But they didn't sleep, and neither did she. What replayed in her mind wasn't a memory, but a feeling she hadn't known in years. A fierce, protective fire she thought had burned out long ago. A boy had asked to stay. And 3 lives, maybe 4, were about to change forever. Morning came without ceremony. Clara was already downstairs, starting the fire again. The boys hadn't moved much. Wei was curled under his blanket. Jin was lying rigid on his back. Bo sat upright in the corner, knees tucked to his chest, watching the door, watching her. Clara set a stack of folded shirts and trousers on a bench. Her voice was calm and firm. You can wash in the barn. There's privacy. Towels are in the red box. Bo, you go first, then Jin. Wei, you're last. Don't come back in until you're clean. None of them moved at first. Bo's jaw tightened. Why are you doing this? Because I want to. People don't do things just to be kind. She met his eyes. That's because people forget how. A minute later, he got up, took the clothes, and disappeared. By the time Jin had followed, Clara was already mixing oats into a pot, slicing apples, and adding cinnamon. Wei lingered in the doorway after the other 2 had gone. Can I keep my name? He asked. She turned. Why wouldn't you? He looked down. People change them. I won't. Good, he whispered. Clara led Bo outside, showed him the tool shed, the chicken coop, the vegetable patch. I'll do chores, Bo said. You don't need to if I want to. That change things. She sent Jin to stack firewood. Wei followed her through the house, helping her fold linens. It wasn't a perfect day. There were awkward silences, sudden flinches. But by the time the sun had dipped past the ridge, there was a warmth in the house that hadn't been there in years. And then a knock. Clara opened the door and found Sheriff Brody standing on her porch, a tall, lean man with a weary face. Afternoon, Clara, he said. Heard you made a purchase in town. She stepped outside, closed the door behind her. I brought them home. Wasn't sure it was you. Some of the townsfolk thought you'd gone mad. Maybe I have. They're not livestock, Clara. I know. They've been passed between more railroad camps than most stray dogs. People take them, then bring them back. That one boy, Bo, he nearly broke a foreman's arm with a shovel. He won't be breaking mine. Sheriff Brody sighed. You want me to help get their names written with the county clerk? Make it official. Not yet. I need to know they'll stay. I wouldn't count on that. Not with their history. She looked past him at the hills. Then I'll make new history. That night, the scream tore her from sleep. A raw, animal scream that wrenched through the walls. She rushed to the main room. Bo was thrashing, his body slick with sweat. Stop, he choked out in his own language. Please stop. Not again. Clara dropped to her knees beside him. Bo, it's not real. You're safe. You're home. His eyes flew open. He gasped and recoiled so fast he nearly fell from his blankets. Don't touch me. It's Clara, she said calmly. You were dreaming. He blinked, looked around the room. Wei had started crying softly. Bo covered his face. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to wake anyone. His voice broke. Jin stepped forward, pale but steady. He does this sometimes. Should I go sleep in the barn? Bo asked. I'll be quiet. No one's going to the barn, Clara said. You're staying here. She paused. I dreamed he was back, Bo said. The one who bought us before the last place. He always smelled like whiskey and rope. I thought I was back there. Clara's throat tightened. You're not. They sat at the table drinking tea until dawn. None of them returned to sleep. Later that morning, Clara handed Bo an axe. I want you to do something that makes your arms tired and your mind quiet, she said. Days turned into a week. Harris started reading aloud by the fire. Bo stopped asking to do chores, he just did them. Wei began leaving little drawings for her, a crooked house, a lopsided horse, always with stick figures. But it wasn't perfect. One night, Jin came home with a black eye. Town boys, he muttered. Said we were trash. Called Bo names. I told them to stop. Did Bo fight back? No. He just stood there. Why didn't you run? Jin shrugged. We don't run anymore. A letter arrived the next morning, postmarked from the next county over. It was from the railroad company. She read it twice, folded it, put it in her apron. After breakfast, she asked the boys to sit. I've been asked to bring you to the company office, she said. The room went still. Why? Bo asked. They want to ask you questions. Make sure you're being cared for. We don't want to go, Wei said. You don't have to stay there, she said gently. But you have to come with me. You have to show them what we've built here. Bo stood slowly. If they try to take us, they won't. Not if we show them who you really are. The ride to the company town was long. The office was imposing. The clerk looked down at them with suspicion. But the boys stood straight. Wei held Bo's hand. Jin didn't fidget once. The man asked questions. Do you sleep through the night? Do you get meals? Do you feel safe? Each boy answered, yes. When it was done, the clerk leaned back. You're lucky, he said. She could have left you to rot. Not many would take in 3 of you. She didn't take us in, Bo said, his voice clear. The man blinked. She freed us. We chose her. That night, there was a new drawing waiting for Clara. It was for stick figures holding hands in front of a crooked little house with smoke from the chimney and stars overhead. On the roof, someone had written in big letters, found, and for the first time since burying her father, Clara cried. She didn't hide her face. She sat at the table and wept. The boys didn't ask why. They just stayed with her. The trouble came 5 days later. Clara had gone into town alone. When she reached the general store, the man behind the counter looked uneasy. Heard a man came in asking questions about the boys, he said. Her hands went still on the counter. What kind of questions? The kind you don't want strangers asking. Said he had papers. Said he was their owner. Clara felt her gut tighten. What name? Didn't give one. Rode off before anyone could stop him. But he headed east, toward your place. She left the supplies and rode harder than she had in years, her heart pounding louder than hooves. When she crested the last hill, a dark horse was tied outside her cabin. The boys were still inside. She jumped down and ran. The door was open. Inside, the boys stood in a row, backs stiff. In front of them, a man in a dark coat, tall and pale, with a mustache that curled at the edges. He held a folder in one hand and in the other, a burlap sack. "Step away from them," Clara said. The man turned slowly. "You must be the rancher. You must be lost." "I'm not. I've come for what's mine." "They're not yours." He opened the folder. Ward transfer papers signed by the railroad magistrate. "I paid good money." "You paid for flesh, not for family." He tilted his head. "That's a pretty word for stolen property." "You say that again," Bo said, voice shaking, "and I'll knock your teeth out." The man laughed. "You think you can fight me, boy? I already broke you once." "Then we bite," Jin said, stepping beside Bo Wei clung to Clara's side. The man reached into his coat. Clara moved first. The rifle from the mantel was already in her hands. She raised it, eyes steady. "Try it." He froze. "You think I won't?" she asked. "I think you're scared." "I am," she said. "But that don't mean I won't pull the trigger." The man's hand hovered. Then slowly, he lowered it. "You'll pay for this," he said. "The company always finds out." "They already did," she said, "and they left them with me." He backed to the door and rode off. She didn't lower the rifle until the sound of hooves vanished completely. That night, none of them slept. They sat by the fire, huddled close. "They'll come back," Bo said. Clara nodded. "Maybe. But we'll be ready." The next morning, she went into town again, this time with all 3 boys. She marched them into the sheriff's office and dropped the papers the man had left on the desk. "The magistrate who signed these retired 2 years ago," Sheriff Brody said, adjusting his spectacles. "Someone's forging company documents to snatch children," he paled. "We'll handle this, Clara. You have my word." "I don't want promises," she said. "I want peace." That winter passed like a slow song. The days short, the nights long, but filled with the kind of quiet routine that made life bearable. The boys learned to read and write English properly. Bo built a sled. Jin read every book in the house. Wei started writing his name on everything. When Clara found Wei chalked on the cabin wall, she cried again, not loudly, not for long, but real tears. By the time spring came, they had planted a new garden. By summer, it was growing strong, and the boys, each in their own way, had learned how to grow with it. One afternoon, as they pulled weeds, the peace was shattered by the sound of approaching horses. It wasn't one rider, it was 3. Sheriff Brody and 2 deputies. Clara met them on the porch, rifle held loosely at her side. The boys stood behind her. "Clara," the sheriff said, tipping his hat. "We got him. The man you described. Silas Croft. He and his men were running a ring, snatching runaways from the camps and selling them south." Clara's shoulders sagged in relief. "But that's not why I'm here," Brody continued, his face grim. "The company sent a formal request. They want the boys back. Say they're assets. There's a hearing in a week. They want you to bring